So appreciate coming here. My name is Victor Okunev, and I am a developer evangelist with Samsung Electronics Canada. And here's my colleague, Sean O'Brien.
Hey guys.
He is a senior developer. Also, we both came from Vancouver, British Columbia, to share something interesting with you. And there's two of us because there's a lot to show and a lot to talk about. So we needed a reinforcement today. So I want to start with the puzzle, just to wake you up. What do you think is this? It's kind of tough one, huh? Isn't it? So I'll give you a hint. So N is the number of Samsung devices that we currently have in this audience. And can you show me the hands just to indicate how many of you have Samsung smartphone or? Okay. So thank you. So +1 means that we're going to increase that amount by one device after the session. So what we're going to do, you're all given the coupons when you came in here. So based on those coupons, we're going to do the draw. And one of you, lucky winner, will come here and do a little talk in exchange for the device. And how many of you guys have attended yesterday's keynote session? Yeah, I also enjoyed it quite a lot, and especially the presentation by Dr. Lawrence Krauss. He basically reminded us that according to the cosmic scale, we don't have much time because our galaxy and the Earth and Devoxx and Java and everything else is going to disappear quite quickly, in a cosmic scale. So what do we do? Well, I think we're better to have fun, right? And so for those of you who are going to have fun building B2B mobile solutions, that's the presentation, and that's the reason why we're here, to help you, to equip you with some tricks. So you can join an army of those gold diggers. It's kind of interesting because if you look at the research, there's a huge demand for mobile B2B solutions. And it grows at about 12% a year. Because if you look at it, like you walk into pretty much any cafe, you walk on a train, you walk to a restaurant, you check into your hotel room, and there's mobile devices everywhere, tablets, that do point of sale. You can buy the tickets, you can control your room environment. Everyone goes mobile these days, but the number of developers who actually focus on B2B mobile solutions is kind of low. And of course, the rest is focusing on consumer market. So hopefully after this presentation, we're going to bump up that number a little bit. So just to give you an example, what are the B2B or business mobile solutions? Or here's an example. It's basically one of our partners who implemented this solution. It's a point of sale advertising. So they basically install this tablet in a shop, and the visitors can browse through the products and do some queries, selections. And as you can see, it's a quite different use case than the consumer kind of use cases, because you kind of have to protect the device so people cannot really mess up with the settings. They cannot, they should leave the device in the same state as it was before they came to work with it, right? So here's another use case that's visiting nurse association. Basically, nurses go to the patients' houses, and they conduct some tests, and they actually have to access the patient's data on those tablets. So as you can see, as you can feel, it's quite important to provide some additional degree of security in case if a tablet like this is lost. The patient records should not be available for extraction. So the security requirements are quite high here. Here's another example. You check into one of the Costa, Adeje, Gran hotel in Spain, and you'll see a tablet like this in your room. So with that tablet, you can interact with, with the hotel staff, and you can, check what are the local points of interest, and what's the menu. Some of these the hospitality solutions, they even allow you to control like the room parameters, lighting, temperature, turn on TV. And again, you can think, if you think about the requirements, it's quite different than the consumer kind of space, because again, even if you allow people to browse, for example, an internet, you need to make sure that when they check out, you clear everything, because you don't want to leave any history, any cookies, anything. That you should be able to, again, make sure that they cannot mess with the settings. So different requirements. So when you compare B2C, being, consumer mobile solutions, versus B2B, which is business mobile solutions, they're not quite, it's not like comparing apples to oranges. It's comparing two apples together, but these apples are, quite different. So let's have a look at some non-functional requirements to an app or solution when you build it for consumer market. So obviously performance, right? Everyone wants to, have a smooth, running device. Everything's done asynchronously. All data, loading done properly, and nothing blocks the UI thread. And user experience should be nice. Ergonomic layout, nice flow, hopefully native experience on the platform that people are used to. Some degree of security. Usually in consumer, solutions, we secure data in transmission. We just use all good SSL, and that's usually does it. Scalability is important, of course, because what's the worst and the best that can happen to our app, is the increased amount of users. And the worst part about that is that our architecture has to scale properly, has to deal with that. And of course, when we build for consumer market, we target generic kind of platform. We want to build for, for all the Android devices out there. And of course, we're talking about Android here. So we build for all Android devices, regardless of, vendor, and hopefully we target the latest 3, Android versions, to make sure that as many people as possible can actually use our solution. So when you look at the non-functional requirements for B2B, that's a bit different. So we need their demands for hardened security, and I'm going to actually show you what are the bits and pieces of hardened security. We need to be able to manage the devices. Like imagine all those nurses that go out to the patient care homes and carrying all these devices. And what if you need to push a new version of the app? What if you need to enforce a certain policy on a device? It's impossible to pick each individual device and tweak it manually. You have to be able to do it from a central console, somewhere in the IT department of that hospital. Just, make sure, see the whole list of devices and manage them, okay? And device customization, that's another requirement. So if you think about, the 3 whales upon which the whole earth of B2B mobile solution is situated, that's basically it. Hardened security, device manageability, and customization. So customization means you take a stock consumer device and you customize it to a single purpose appliance, to a point of sale, or to in-flight entertainment system, or to a hospitality app, or to that healthcare tablet. Instead of building a special hardware, why don't we take a stock consumer device and turn it to a single purpose device or single purpose appliance? And in B2B, we have a luxury to target a single platform and sometimes just a single device model, because we don't have to be able to deploy all those nursing patient care solutions across all the devices. We pick the best platform that provides all these options, the best manageability options, the best customization options, and we build on that platform. And one important thing to notice is that, you can probably, as Android developers, you know that sometimes when you need to, squeeze something extra from your Android device that's not supported by, an API, you go to Stack Overflow and you ask a question, how do I do that? Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible, but you have to root the device. So for consumer market, it works, right? For B2B market, you can pretty much forget about it for two reasons. Security, because, you're going to install untrusted, operating system image. And the second good reason is that routing voids the warranty. Okay, so you can't possibly sell your solution to a customer, with the little disclosure that, by the way, you're not going to have any warranty on your devices. So that's just not going to cut it. So let's just nail the point about building for a single platform. So again, there's a pretty big existing issue with the device fragmentation in Android market, and we talk about fragmentation across different vendors. So, of course, when you build for B2C, you basically want to make sure that every single square in this map is able to run your solution. In B2B, you pick the best square from this whole matrix, and you build and you deploy your solution to that square. Okay? So we have a luxury of doing that. So in other words, in B2B, businesses, they have control over the device fleet, as opposed to the wild west of consumer market. So let's have a look at all these three requirements. So hardened mobile security. What does it really mean? How hardened should it be? Well, quite often when you build, especially for enterprises, for healthcare, for law enforcement, for Department of Defense, they want to have a hardware-rooted trust on the device. So what does it mean? It means that at any point of time, we want to have a proof that the system hasn't been compromised. And that proof has to be based on the values, on some keys or maybe algorithms that are stored in the hardware, cannot be modified, cannot be stolen, cannot be, substituted. Okay? So there's different measures how to do it. So for example, you can install a pair of asymmetric keys on the device, and it's called hardware device root key. So the OEM basically signs the public key, with their root key. So the benefits of doing that is that every device has a unique pair of keys, and every device can actually, sign some data using, the private key from that pair, and provide you with that signed data, and you can look at the certificate and say, okay, it's coming from the trusted source. Why would you need such data signed by the device? Well, look at this at the second bullet, remote device attestation. In B2B, sometimes you have to ask the device, before you do anything else on the device, you have to ask the device, are you still in a good, uncompromised state? And the device should gather all the evidences from its own hardware, software, layers, and, put together a statement that says, yes, I'm still good, or no, sorry, I'm broken. And that evidence has to be signed by that private key. The certificate is added, and you look at that assertion, and you basically and then you kick in your workflow, whether or not to do anything else. Interesting measure is void warranty fuse. Sometimes the requirements come from the business. If a device has ever been compromised, there must be a permanent evidence that it took place. And from that point on, that device shouldn't be used for any security sensitive operations. So basically, in some use cases, that device becomes kind of obsolete. It still works in a consumer, for consumers it's still a normal Android device, but for businesses, for enterprises, based on just one-time, warranty fuse, that device is no longer acceptable. And once we go up the stack, there must be OS level data protection. We know that Android is based on Linux, of course, and in Linux we have discretionary access control. So basically, enterprises, they don't really have control over, what data are secure, and what are the rules. Basically, it's up to the developers or up to the users. Well, so it's not good enough. So, for example, this could be hardened by security enhancements for Android when when you create security domains and you place applications in those domains on the phone, and the boundaries of those domains are governed by the rules, and those rules are controlled by the enterprise. Okay, so moving on, when you boot the device, the sequence of bootloaders kick in. You want to make sure that those bootloaders are authentic. They haven't been substituted, because bootloader basically initializes your, some of the components of your hardware. So, providing drivers. So you don't want anybody to intercept all your voice, for example, by adding a malicious bootloader. So you need to authenticate bootloaders, and you need to, remember, that they actually authentic for in case if the device has to provide attestation data. Moving on, integrity-based services. So all these normal kind of secure cryptographic services that we all use everywhere else, they become integrity-based in a hardened security area. What does it mean? It means every time you go to the key store and you ask, get me the key or get me the certificate by this alias, the system first checks its security state, whether or not it's been compromised. If the system realizes that there was there was an untrusted bootloader, for example, or the warranty bit is set, that's it. You're never going to get your key ever, and it's really impossible to extract it. So this kind of stuff. Application security, moving all the way to the application layer, it's important to have measures like containerization, and we're going to talk about containers on mobile platforms. It's important to have VPN, a choice of different VPN implementations, and quite often enterprises, they don't want to channel all the traffic through their VPN concentrators. They want to just, pick their app, like maybe email, and say that only email traffic goes through that VPN. So we have to be able to provide per app VPN capabilities. And single sign-on, of course, quite often requested by the businesses. So you may think, gosh, that's like a lot. That's a lot of measures that have to be, provided to satisfy the hardened security requirements. Well, this is why we're here, guys. We basically want to introduce so-called Samsung KNOX Platform. Can you please show me how many of you heard about Samsung KNOX? That's quite impressive. So our mission is basically educate, developer community that there is a secure platform like this that implements all these measures, comes with the hardware root of trust, and it's actually been certified by a number of government organizations around the world, that have pretty strict requirements to security. Okay, so the whole stack has been certified, not just the application layer, the whole stack. Okay, so if you face the requirement of picking a mobile platform that's that has to satisfy the hardened security requirements, this is the platform to use. But platform by itself wouldn't be enough, right? You still need to have, the programming tools, the APIs, to take advantage of the whole power of this platform. And so this is where we move to another requirement, mobile device management. So, it's known in industries as MDM solutions or mobile device management. This is in a nutshell how it works. We have a device, And the device has a bunch of APIs that allow you to enforce certain policies. Turn on the camera, configure your Wi-Fi, pre-configure Bluetooth profiles. So, when you pair it with the device, the user doesn't have to interact at all. A lot of different APIs. And so, and then there's some kind of third-party implementation that, provides an MDM agent on your device, and that MDM agent communicates somehow with the backend. It's completely, irrelevant, what kind of protocols they use. The point is that that MDM agent invokes local MDM APIs, okay? So the more granular and the richer set of those APIs you have on a mobile platform, the better it's suited for, again, B2B and enterprise solutions. And so here, we're happy to introduce you a set of those APIs. We call it KNOX Standard SDK. We basically have a number of different API that we package in SDKs, in separate SDKs, okay? So this is KNOX Standard SDK, and if those of you who actually been to our booth, you can see that each SDK has a dedicated station where you can see how it all works. So KNOX Standard SDK comes with 430 device policies. That's quite a lot. I bet if I challenge you right now to come up with at least 100 of possible policies you can think of about enforcing on a device, that'll be quite hard. But 430, you can imagine, you can tweak pretty much every, software setting on a device. And, there's some examples here. And what's interesting, this is not something that we're introducing right now. This API has been used by our MDM partners for years already, at least like 3-4 years. And hopefully you see some of these names are, they look familiar. They all provide MDM solutions, that with that, roughly with that same architecture that I showed you before. And they all eventually call our APIs from KNOX Standard SDK. So here's just one of the examples. You can implement a simple kiosk mode. It's basically a very restricted Android environment. Still you have Android launcher, but maybe a couple of apps, maybe disabled settings, removed notification bar, but still Android environment. There's another kiosk type that we're going to talk about later. So when it comes to the code, it's quite easy to use those APIs. So one thing to tell you is that every time you use each of those APIs from the KNOX platform, you basically need to activate the license. And some licenses are free, some licenses are fee-based, but once you activate the license, basically the top part of the slide is all about the plumbing. Once you have the license, it's basically a single call. So in this example, we're applying a policy, and we're saying that this application cannot be uninstalled. Okay, so once you make this call, the user comes to the application manager. They just cannot uninstall this app. And clearly, this is one of the perfect requirements in B2B solutions. A taxi cab driver should not be able to uninstall the point of sale solution that you've implemented on the tablet. So you may say, well, that all sounds great, but I'm not an MDM vendor. It's not my business. I want to just build something else, some solutions, business solutions, not an MDM product. And that's fine, because you don't even have to implement this whole distributed architecture, the backend. You can invoke all those APIs locally, by triggering some local events. You can draw a geofence, for example, and implement parenting control, application based on that geofence. When the kid leaves, the secure perimeter, or maybe it's some kind of school, solution, you disable certain apps. That's, everything happening locally. There's no need to build an MDM. So the best way to show you what you can do with the KNOX Standard MDM API is to ask our friend Sean to give us some demos.
Perfect. Thank you, Victor. So there's going to be about 3 demos for the rest of this talk. For the first one, I'm going to address the standard APK that Victor just talked about. A quick word on the setup here. So this is actually a device that I've hooked up to the laptop using a solution called SideSync. It is a device, it's not an emulator. So if you're developing solutions, it's best to have a device on hand to do that. So for the focus of this demo will be the standard SDK. I'm going to focus on the application management policies. So there are 430, so I'm just going to narrow it down to the application management and show you some kind of unique things you can do in terms of application management on a Samsung KNOX device. So the first one up will be disabling an application. So you can see in my home screen there I have the Play Store on the bottom corner there. I'm going to launch a demo application. So this is effectively a test harness type application. You can see my phone is actually in airplane mode at the moment, in case someone gives me a call. But so that's the point here, is that there's no kind of MDM backend required, as Victor just mentioned. All these APIs have been invoked locally on the device. So I'm going to disable that the Google Play Market. So I have a shorthand for this: disable the market. Toast Android Market has been disabled, and you'll see that the user now has no longer access to that Play Store. The use case for that could be multiple. So it could be just a corporate liable device where they don't require the Android Market Store. They might be pushing in-house applications, for example. But the disable feature is good in that it will maintain the application data from that APK. So you're not kind of removing anything. So it can be used quite well with features like geofencing, which is also part of the standard SDK. So for a good example of that is maybe disabling the camera if you enter a certain location. So we'd have lockdown geo-coordinates. Some application gets disabled when it enters that circular geofence or whatever geofence is defined. And when they leave, the application can be restored. It can be enabled again, and all is good. So if I click Enable Market there, it'll pop back up. Although it will go to my the last screen there, Play Store. For the next one, this is going to be the final application demo that I'm going to go through for the standard, is the more nuclear option of uninstalling the application. So a lot of the application APIs are based on package name, just to point that out. So in this test app, I actually have an ability to just pull up all the package names. But there's multiple workarounds or ways of getting this, multiple third-party utilities that can pull the package name. So I'm going to take maybe Chrome there, com.android.chrome, and apply that as a parameter for uninstalling. Okay, uninstalled package, APK uninstalled. So if I go to my Google folder, I no longer see Chrome. So that is the reason I picked that one to demo is it's quite unique on an Android device to be able to simply uninstall that. I step to it, I click the button, enter the package name, but you can imagine as an application developer, you can simply, that can be completely abstracted from the user. So this could be useful for, as well as corporate liable deployments. It might be something that antivirus vendors might be interested in. That has been the case. We have a number of partners who deploy their solutions in combination with MDM, where they would do behavior analysis of certain APKs. If something meets a certain threshold, it will uninstall that application, for example. Okay. And that concludes the demo for the KNOX standard. So I'm going to come back for 2 more. We'll talk about customization and premium shortly.
Thank you, Sean. That was good. So when we talk about device management, there is one interesting problem that comes to mind, specifically when you deploy to the enterprises. Managing personal space versus workspace. These days people people would like to use a single device to, do their personal stuff, browsing Facebook, Instagram, and the businesses would like to provide ability for those users to access their corporate resources. But there's one problem. And of course, you probably recognize those scenarios. If you ask some IT administrators what BYOD stands for, some of them will tell you it stands for bring your own disaster, because it doesn't really quite work the way it was expected, because people bring all kinds of devices. So, as a remedy, at least they provide a list and say, well, choose your own device from that list, and then we'll make sure you can access the corporate data. But generally speaking, when you access both personal and work data and applications on the same device, there's a conflict of interest. Who controls what? Because people don't want to be told what websites they can or cannot visit, what apps they can or cannot install. Businesses, they want to make sure that nothing happening that can potentially compromise the device, compromise the data. So there's a collision of interests. And the way to resolve that collision is by using containerization. Okay? So business installs their apps, hosts their data in a container that provides an interaction isolation, data isolation. Any data that's generated within the container is getting encrypted right away with one of those hardware-based keys, meaning you cannot decrypt that data anywhere else on any other device. Okay, and so there's a lot of different container solutions even for Android. But they're all different. Some containers require application wrapping, which means you actually have to modify the application bytecode. Some of them, provide more or less, manageability features, because IT administrators, they manage the container. They have a full control of what they do. And of course, the more manageability options they have, the happier they are, the easier it is to manage the container. So you may ask, well, where do I get one of those containers? And the answer is, if you have a Galaxy device in your pocket, the container is already there. You just need to activate it, and you need to, manage it. And you can do it programmatically. Okay, so one of the actual name of the product that's actually a defense-grade container is KNOX Workspace, and it's already on the devices. Okay, and it's integrated with all this hardened security stack, and it provides a pretty seamless experience for the user. Basically their personal space stops at the left screen here. In order to enter the container space, they have to get authenticated, and this is something already subject to the policies. The IT admins, they actually, they can decide what kind of authentication is required. Is it passcode based? Is it pattern based? Is it two-factor authentication? That's already subject to the policies. And once you move inside of the container, users cannot do anything that they're not supposed to do, because all is heavily, controlled by the IT administrators. And so there's an API that also exists. It's integrated with the KNOX platform. It's already on your phones. And you can use that API to actually create one of those containers programmatically. You can actually create up to 2 containers programmatically, in case if, sometimes you need to do that. The architecture is quite open, because you can even plug in third-party containers that would be situated on this hardened, security hardened platform. Okay, so this is quite amazing API. It allows you to manage the container. It also allows you to, for example, request attestation data using attestation API. This is the API that you use to access hardware-backed key store. Remember I mentioned, the one that, every time you're trying to fetch a key, it checks the state of the platform for security, from security point of view. And so it's really easy to use. Again, so we try to, make sure those tools are, pretty painless for the developers. So what we do in this case, that enabling that hardware-based key store. I left the package name specifically to show you that it's actually a good old Java key store. All you have to do, you have to specify a different provider, Tima key store, and I'm not going to explain what Tima is. It's another like an hour long talk, but please come to our booth and we'll tell you all about it. So that's all you have to do to start using hardware-backed key store. Quite obvious, right? And again, if you're not in the MDM providing business, you can use a lot of features of this API. Like for example, you can enable pure app VPN. Maybe that's the whole reason why you use this API. Okay, or you can integrate smart cards. There's a lot of different ways to integrate smart cards. Bluetooth, USB. Just use this API. You can do that. So here comes another demo, just to show you how it actually works.
Perfect. Thank you. So this is going to be kind of pretty straightforward. So we're just going to go through the usability side of the KNOX container. So on the device here, you can see that it's in the personal space, which is the device owner with Android. And the idea would be that you would keep your personal information on the device side. When you want to secure, if you have sensitive data, confidential information that you wished an extra layer of protection, that would be deployed into the KNOX container, the KNOX Workspace container. A key takeaway here is that it's a native environment. This is not virtualized or anything like that. It's essentially another user profile on the Android device. So the multi-user framework came into Android in, I think, 4.4, principally targeting tablets. So you can share your tablet at your home with whoever's there. But it hasn't been utilized so much on the phones yet, as a phone is effectively a single-user device, really. But it's been leveraged by Samsung to create this workspace. So this maintains strong degree of isolation between the application data. For example, every application in here, and you could even have Google Play running inside the container, if you so wish. The point being that it will support any application that supports the Android multi-user framework can run natively in this containerized environment. That would be one of the benefits on top of kind of third-party container solutions that don't have that native experience. Some of the policies that you control that Victor just mentioned would be the VPN example. So you could do a VPN for every application that is situated in the container, or you could just do VPN on a per application basis if that was wished as well. The file system is completely separate as well, and encrypted AES 256-bit encryption. The way it's hooked up is that, as Victor talked about, the hardware-backed integrity. If the device is compromised at boot time, the fact that this is on a separate file system, which is encrypted, tied to those hardware-backed encryption keys, means that the file system will not be accessible. So those decryption routines happen in this trust zone area on the chip. That's not going to release the decryption keys there or run the routines to allow you to access this file system. So if the device is rooted, privilege escalation attempt like that, the container would effectively just lock down and you just have an encrypted file system where you can't access the keys. So this environment is referred to as the launcher. So it's a complete context switch for the end user. We have a separate one that can be a more folder-based UI where it's not as jarring. So the launcher was how KNOX was originally launched, which was actually back in October 2013. So it's quite a mature product at this point. So I'm just going to switch the environment from being a launcher to a folder mode UI. Everything is the same under the hood. It's still an encrypted file system. The difference now is that when you activate or when you wish to look into the KNOX container, it just effectively looks like a folder on your device. You don't get that big navigation push, but the file system, everything is the same underneath the hood, so to speak. So you still have a separate file system there. Maybe just to illustrate that quickly, if I take a picture of all you guys. Okay, a lot of lights. Oh, it doesn't like it. Okay, so you can see that's been saved. And this is in the gallery or in the file system of the KNOX container now. So you can see there's 2 pictures there. This will not be on the gallery of the actual device. So there'll be a separate set of pictures in that space because it's completely separate, as I said. Okay. Yeah, so I guess those are the main takeaways. Native environment. Everything inside the container is totally configurable. So it's effectively like the standard SDK that I just went through in terms of application management. All that can be applied to inside the container as well. So you have the ability to, if you don't like these set of applications in the container, you can put your own applications in there. As a developer, you can control that. You can decide what stays there and what goes. With KNOX, the platform provides the security by default. So that's to do with encryption routines that Victor talked about. What's configurable is the kind of application layer stuff. So things like copy paste. Can I move data between my workspace versus my device owner space? A lot of those decisions are left up to companies on a kind of per app and a per deployment basis. Okay, so that was a quick run through of the container. I'll switch back to Victor now.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks a lot. So containers are great. There's one problem about containers. They provide interrupted user experience because users kind of have to switch between personal and workspace, and that requires authentication. And some containers, they don't even look like Android environment. If you look at the third-party containers, they look like an app with app within Android and little icons like some kind of custom launcher. So in other words, sometimes you face a requirement from a customer. We want you to put an app in a container, but we don't want to interrupt the user experience. What can you do? Well, fortunately, if you implement your solution on the KNOX platform, we provide you with a simple way to achieve just that. It's called KNOX Enabled App. So basically, all you have to do is to tweak your manifest. Just add basically this line to the manifest and recompile the app. And when you deploy the app on a desktop, it'll receive that little icon, that little keylog. Okay? And what that means when you launch the app, it's going to launch in the invisible container. Still data isolation, interaction isolation from the rest of the space, from the user space, but it is completely uninterrupted user experience. What's interesting, if you sign your apps with the same key, then those apps will be, both of your apps or many of your apps will be deployed in the same invisible container. So you'll be able to interact between your apps, but not with the other vendors, not with the personal space, not with the other invisible containers. So that's quite nice. And so remember, again, the requirements, the different non-functional requirements for the B2B solutions are hardened security, device manageability, and customization. So let's talk about customization. So these are actually examples, for some of the solutions made by, built by our partners. So this one, it's a Swisscom. It's a hospitality solution built by Swisscom. They basically place those tablets in the hotels that they provide IT management for, and the users use those tabs to change the room environment, as I mentioned earlier. Access some of the hotel services, browse the local directories of points of interests, and they cannot do anything else that hasn't been provided as a use case requirement. They cannot change any of the settings on that tablet. Here's another example: Buffalo Wild Wings. There's a chain of restaurants in the States. You basically come to the restaurant. There's a tablet on a table, and you can use that tablet to answer some of the quizzes. There's like TV screens all over, and right in you can jump into those quizzes, start answering them, and you can win some prizes. You can use this tablet to play some games with your friend at the table. And what's interesting, just introducing that feature to a restaurant boosted the number of visitors like by some crazy percentage, close to 20 or 25, I don't remember exactly, but it was amazing. When people have a choice where to go, they say, well, let's go to Buffalo Wild Wings. They have this cool tablet. And here's an example of in-flight entertainment system. If you fly with Virgin Atlantic Airline, you'll be provided a tablet like this. It's actually a Samsung tablet that has been customized. The only thing you can do on that tablet is to watch videos and listen to the audios and read newspapers electronically. And by implementing this kind of solution, they could remove all these wires from the airplane. They could throw away all these newspapers, printed newspapers and magazines. And those folks actually, they work with the airlines, and they told me that if they save 1 kilo of weight, on the airplane, then over the year on a normal airliner, it accumulates to $50,000 of saving in fuel, just 1 kilo. Okay, so you can imagine if you rip those kilometers of wires, from the legacy in-flight entertainment systems, the airline wouldn't have problem paying for your solution just from the saved money, right? So, and there's an API. We have an API to customize the devices. Those APIs, they're actually packaged in KNOX Customization SDK. And you can, it's basically an extension of KNOX Standard. It goes into, more detailed customization features. So, for example, you have more granular control over your device features, like notification bar. You can do way more things with notification bar. You can actually print a custom message on a notification bar if you want to. There's really no such APIs in the stock Android SDK. And what's interesting, sometimes your customers come with like absolutely crazy requirements. We want you to bump a standard USB charge rate from 500 milliamps to 700 milliamps, just because this solution draws so much current that the normal charge rate cannot keep up. What do? There's really no API for that, even in our library. Well, you come to Samsung and we can build a custom ROM for you guys, a custom binary for your solution, and we can do a lot in those custom binaries. And sometimes when we have the same request coming on and on and on, we actually build an API, because we get tired of building custom binaries. We'll just build an API. So one of the recent additions to an API, a feature that migrated from the custom binaries to an API layer, is a custom boot logo and a custom sound. So you can actually provide your own branded animation and sound. Maybe instead of playing music, you just provide instructions to a taxi driver how to use that point of sale system. It's perfectly normal. And so here's an example how to use a customization API. So basically, in this case, we are setting a kiosk mode, a professional kiosk mode, where we can pick an activity, a home activity, basically an app that will be invoked when you press a home button. And it doesn't have to be a launcher, because normally you can implement a launcher style application, but in this case it could be any app. You build your point of sale, you bind it to a device as a home activity. Next time the user clicks home button, they land on your point of sale system, and they cannot land on a normal launcher anymore. And so and then you can apply some policies to that kiosk. And then you basically turn the device into Pro Kiosk mode, and that's it. From that point on, nobody can, use it as a general purpose Android phone. Now it's a single purpose appliance. And one of the questions that you may ask, well, how do I escape that mode? Like sometimes I, even from IT management perspective, I do need to have access to the, still to the all good Android environment. Well, that's why you have the passcode. So Sean is going to show you, where you can actually enter that passcode to unlock the device into the normal generic mode.
Okay.
And here's the demo.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, so a change of device. So a lot of customization opportunities tend to work best on tablets. So I'm using a Tab A device here now that's connected to my laptop. So I'll just blow up the lock screen. So we have a demo application that can show you a lot of the APIs that are available with Customization SDK. It's all accessible via the settings menu, so it's arranged by SDK version support. So depending on what device you have, if it supports the latest SDKs, it will be here. In market at the moment, anything on Android Lollipop will be up to SDK 2.4. And here are some of the features that Victor talked about. So the Pro Kiosk mode, another term for that we have in the API in the Java docs that you'll see would be seal mode. So when you activate seal mode, you get a lot of other choices in terms of what you can do, even with the status bar icons there. So you can choose to display them. So the battery percentage, the battery. If this was connected to a Wi-Fi network, you would also see, you'd see that it was connected to a Wi-Fi network. Maybe we don't want to show that for this deployment, but the clock is fine. In terms of setting the home package, so you could select any application here that's currently installed on the device. So I actually have an application that's from a partner solution for Starwind Airlines. So this is BAE Systems who develop in-flight commercialization solutions. So I'll set that package to be the home package. And I can do other options here. So you've seen the lock screen when I logged on initially. I can just hit remove lock screen there at that point. That will remove the lock screen so that when if the device is in a powered off state and I turn it on again, it's not going to present the user with a swipe, even a swipe if that was there, and be blown away, because it's just an extra. If you think of the point of sale terminal type solutions, you don't want whoever's taking the order to have to hit the power button, do a swipe, whatever. You want it to turn on to your application straight away. So we have a really simple API to allow you to do that. Some other examples at the bottom, we've enabled ADB, so I could kill my demo right now if I decided to turn off USB access here. And we can also automatically turn on GPS. So that's without presenting the user with a pop-up. It will just automatically turn on. Some other various options that I'm not going to step into in all super detail, but you can see we have lots of things there, including even remapping hardware buttons. So you can get the hardware buttons, maybe the volume keys to do task switching, for example, or depending on the deployment. Okay, so at this point, if I hit the home button, which with side sync is this on the right-hand side of the screen, it should launch that Starwind Airlines application. So I'll just switch that into landscape mode, and this is their in-flight entertainment solution then. So this is what they would hand out to customers on the flights for accessing movies. So one of their requirements when they were building this solution, to allow them to run the latest Hollywood releases, for example, it's very important that end users cannot extract the movies off the device. So oftentimes the movies they're actually physically on the device. It could be a streaming solution as well on board the aircraft. I've seen them do it every which way. But the key requirement is that you're not allowing end users access the USB, for example. Or if they physically, oftentimes it's physically blocked, but we can also block it at the software layer. So if someone hacks in, or if someone plugs in their USB device, they're not going to extract these movies, for example. Another thing I'd point out about this solution, and where the application management APIs that I talked about earlier come in useful, are the fact that they allow end users to log into their email applications, for example. So if this tablet has been passed around multiple users, the next time someone comes on, it's very important that application data does not stay there. And this is where you could use customization for one part of the solution, the professional kiosk, and then use other APIs such as wiping application data when the tablet's been reset effectively, when the flight is over, and they hand it back to the air hostess, for example. For escaping then, so at this point you're kind of locked in. So this button on the right-hand side normally presents the multitask window that's been blocked. The home button, whenever I press, it's just going to come back to the launcher of that application. So how to get out of it. So I'm just, after holding down the physical power button on the device, that's disconnected there. But you can see it's added another option in the power screen for seal mode. And this will prevent a UI to enter a passcode that you can programmatically set in your code to escape the kiosk. We can also add custom menus to this power button, so we could add a contact us, or maybe that would direct them to your support channel. The obvious one in terms of power off and restart, we do have APIs to prevent that as well. So end users are just completely locked into that environment in totality, really, until some administrator allows them to uninstall it or to escape the kiosk. So if I click on that, it's just going to pop me a passcode, 6824. If I hit the right one. Or if for the sake of the demo app, I've enabled the back button to be used, but we could also disable it. In a proper deployment, you would disable all hardware buttons, including the back button getting back to this stage. Okay, so that was a really quick walkthrough of customization and an example of a partner solution in play.
Thank you, Sean.
Yeah, I'll go back.
So we're coming to a conclusion. A few more options to describe. So those of you guys who know about hybrid apps, you know it's a different way to build an application. You can basically, instead of using native code, you can take a web view and put together a UI using HTML5, CSS, and JavaScript, deploy it on different mobile platforms, and if you use a proper framework, it's actually going to provide the hooks to the native services on that platform. So one of the great examples of such framework is Apache Cordova project, an open source project. And Samsung has contributed a number of plugins to that project, making it an open source as well. So if you want to, provide additional user experience, richer user experience, when you can actually detect that your app is running on Samsung device at the runtime, and in that case, you can actually invoke some of those APIs to enable S Pen support, or to provide multi-window environment, or send rich notifications to your wearable device. Okay, all this, as complex as it looks, it basically requires you a single JavaScript statement. Okay. So in other words, we don't expect you to leave this room and immediately start, jumping on the KNOX platform and building solution. That would be too much to ask. But what we hope you remember, that KNOX platform is an enterprise-ready environment. It comes with the hardware, software stack. It comes with a bunch of APIs that allow you to do pretty much anything you want on those devices. Okay, and here's actually how to check whether or not your device is compatible with KNOX platform, and what kind of versions of SDKs are supported on that device. And so the next question comes, well, great, where do I get all those SDKs? There must be some portal, and this is this is part of our presence here. We actually promote this portal. It's called Samsung Enterprise Alliance Program. And the whole point of this portal is provide developers with the SDKs, with the development licenses, with the documentation, sample apps, tutorials, FAQs, everything you can possibly think about to get you started in the right direction. Okay? And there's a forum that's basically attended 24/7 by our customer support engineers. How good is that? And what's interesting, once you're done with your proof of concept, you're exploring those APIs, we can move you to the partner. Once you have a solution, we're going to help you to market that solution. and we can help you to, to get in touch with our sales team. We can do a lot of stuff for you. For example, we run, every year we have annual Samsung Developer Conference. We'll invite you, hopefully some of you from this auditorium, to present your solutions to all the attendees, because your success is our success. Your solutions, reinforce our story. Okay? So please keep that in mind. So at this point, I'd like to thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And there's a few things that we need to do. So first of all, there's a Samsung KNOX Developer Challenge going on at the moment. So you can join it in and try and see how well you understood the presentation. Just see if you can get something successful there. Okay. Another thing is that please come to our booth and fill up a survey form. We do it in an old-fashioned way, paper form. We'll trade it for a souvenir. And here comes the N+1 puzzle in action. So for those of you who came late, N is the number of Samsung devices that are currently present in the audience. +1 means that we're going to increase it by 1 device, because we're going to do a draw. Okay? So again, no random code generator, just an old good picking. Okay, you guys ready? All right. So we have number 0, 2, 6. 026.
Nice.
Please come on stage.